Welcome back to the King's Report for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018, 8th year of Cheongi, 12th month, and the 7th day. Tim Elder and Greg Nolan for the second king of Cheongu, Hyung Moon. And we'll go to our Rhemas this morning. I'm in Numbers chapter 28 this morning. And the Lord, beginning with verse 1, just reading the first three verses. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire for a sweet savor unto me, shall ye observe to offer unto me in their due season. And thou shalt say unto them, This is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord. 2 lambs of the first year, without spot, day by day, for a continual burnt offering. Day by day. So the idea of making an offering to God every day starts in Moses' time, in the Old Testament. Of course, today we don't. That was a lot of lambs.
Yeah.
Burning a lamb every day. I'm not sure how they did that. But anyway, today we don't have to do that. Instead, we have hundoke. Mm-hmm. That is our daily offering to God. And then in Numbers, in chapter 28, it goes on to talk about, a little more about the daily offering, and then talks about monthly offerings, where at the first day of each month, there's an offering. And then there's offerings at Passover, offerings at the Feast of the Weeks, offerings at the Feast of the Trumpets, offerings at the Feast of Tabernacles, etc., etc. So there are then different days during the year when offerings are made. And this is what Father has. This is part of Father's tradition, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That we make daily offerings, we make monthly offerings, and then on holy days during the year, we also have offerings.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get distracted, with idolatry, and these kind of offerings bring us back. They recenter us and really put God at the center of our life. And
they reaffirm our relationship and strengthen our
right.
relationship with God, which is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Father was so absolute about 5 a.m. hunduke, and you can really see the wisdom. Now the second king is carrying on that tradition through the King's Report, where every day you refocus your heart, mind, and soul upon the living God. And that is so important, because the devil is so so mischievous in getting us off track, and it's so easy just to be totally deluded, or to be swayed, or to drift away from God.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and God didn't have us to do these offerings simply because He's a narcissistic God who wants to be number one all the time. He did it so that He knows that we need to reaffirm our relationship with Him. Mm-hmm. There is a war going on.
Yeah.
The history of the providence is the history of a war between two lineages, God's lineage and Satan's lineage. And God needs to say, okay, once a day, you've got to come back to the center. You've got to come back to the center and begin your day at the center, at your relationship with God. And I was just remembering that in Father's words, there's something about, in the early days, members would, if they were not living at the church, they would visit the church before they went to work. They would visit the church, at like 5 a.m. And in Korean Christianity, 5 a.m. prayer services are quite common. And people attend 5 a.m. prayer services. A lot of people attend 5 a.m. prayer services.
That means they get up at 4 and they...
Whatever time, yeah. Some people get up at 2:30.
That's a sincere... sincere devotion. That's what I, when I read Numbers, I get this overwhelming sense, the level of sincerity that one has to have in preparing a lamb, for example.
Yes.
Dabbling in farming now, it's quite a task actually to have the animals prepared in such a way to be an offering. Not that we do offerings on the farm, but animals are not necessarily clean by nature, so. The level of sincerity that it takes to make a pure offering to God in the Old Testament it's quite impressive. And again, you said we're not being asked to do that today, but our hearts should have that kind of level of sincerity as we approach God each and every day.
As it was in the past, in the Old Testament time, it was through these, by offering all things. In other words, all things is the word that Father used to describe all of creation except for human beings. Human beings are in a separate category. So in things of creation, offering those to God, because in the fall, human beings fell to a level that was below creation, below all things, and so we had to offer. We were offering something that was above us, and so that is why in the Old Testament, things like lambs were offered, or heifers sometimes were offered, or doves and pigeons. And then Jesus was an offering, and then today the Word. So always these are things that are act as an intercessor between us and God. We are able to communicate with God through the Word today, through the Word, and through our Rhemas. So that is the daily Rhemas are really correspond to the offering of the lamb in the Old Testament. Or the offering of other animals and other items in the Old Testament. So wonderful that we live in this age when we can do that. Let me go now to the Rhema in our Cheonseongyung. I'm on page 579. This is the book on earthly life in the spirit world. Chapter 2, talking, and I'm guided to this one paragraph here. Yet the way of the Unification Church is different. For what purpose do we eat? For the sake of the world and to abolish this evil world. We see, in order to clean up this evil world, not to become a part of the evil side, but to defeat it. How we hear, think, walk, and act is different from the secular world. So this is. I see this is related to this verse in the Bible, because again we're talking about things of creation. We are eating, we are consuming things of creation. We're seeing the things around us, but always in a position where we are in the subject position. We are in the subject position, and so that we are able to exercise godly dominion over the things around us. So even though we are in the world and we see a lot of sin. But we have to always maintain that godly dominion over that, so that we do not become a part of that world. So, like Jesus said, to be in the world, was it Paul who said, in the world, but not of the world. That is so important. And that's actually kind of difficult, and that's why we have to start the day by making an offering to God and by reaffirming our relationship with God. Because after this offering, we go out into the world. We go out into the sinful secular world, and we need to be strongly grounded in God's Word and in our relationship with God through this time in the morning, so that we can go out then in God's position and exercise His dominion over the world, and to bring that world to God, and not to be dragged to Satan by that world. That's extremely important. It's extremely difficult, and that's why we need this affirmation every morning. Even with this affirmation, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really grateful to the King for setting this kind of, I think, an absolute act of God to create the King's Report, where every day the King is, slaying the dragons and exposing political Satanism, so that we can be more aware as we're walking through our day how Satan is trying to dominate our mind and our culture, our society, and ultimately the world. So I think it's critically important condition. Over 1 year now, the King has been doing this and celebrating God, uplifting God, and exposing Satan. Such an important tradition.
We have a few photographs of the King on Sunday, day before yesterday, where we are told he spoke for 6 hours to the...
Yeah, I think it was planned for 2 hours.
Planned for 2 hours. Goes 6. Well, that's... We've seen that before. These are posted by Ryuta Izumi on a Facebook page there. And the King and Queen there, and some of the people. Those are all the photographs that I have so far. See at least one person wearing his crown there in the foreground. Okay. So that is the information that we have on the king this morning. Okay. All right, let's go to a break, and then we'll come back and go through some information about gun control in New York City, see how that's working out.